Big Jake's after Bigfoot and the Big Apple. It's the biggest chase this town has ever seen. Welcome to Happy Suffer. I
Boo.
feel like Son of Sam, maybe bigger hunt for than this.
No, definitely the Yeti.
Definitely Meatloaf trying to find this horrific creature.
Yeah, what's yeah.
I think this episode 344, something like that. I don't know. We're gonna talk about 1994's To Catch a Yeti, and I'm Blubber.
Oh, I was gonna also be Blubber.
We're both Blubber.
Okay.
I'm I'm Truck Driver.
I'll be Butler.
I'm Big Lady, Bag Lady.
Oh, big bag lady.
Yeah, and gas
All
attendant,
right.
and ticket clerk, and young woman and young
Amazing.
man. I'm a lot of people in
Oh,
this movie.
that's right. Many hats were worn
Uh,
by you.
yeah. For some reason, we watched a horrific Mac and Me style kids movie starring Meatloaf as the worst fucking character on earth, and a weird little creature with giant feet.
I wish I could explain to you also the expression that this creature has on its face the entire time. It's like smiling. It is a quote unquote, so it's called To Catch a Yeti. The movie surprisingly doesn't actually teach us how to catch a Yeti. But that's okay.
Ice
He
cream.
is he oh true. He's short. He's got long, luxurious, like silver white hair and like pointy ears. He has like a tiny little button nose, but the biggest mouth you've ever seen. And then his eyelids are like it's like his eyes are always half closed, but it's like the bottom lid, so he always looks like he just told a cheeky joke.
It's funny
But he
because
doesn't.
I was gonna say like he's constantly winking, and I don't think it's on purpose. I think it's just the
Probably
animatronic
not.
doesn't work.
Yeah. He also is like kind of that creature thing where like he doesn't talk, but he like makes he's constantly like,
Yeah,
oh,
there's just constant noises happening in the background.
yeah, and then he can like sort of mimic things, but that's it. And also feel like for this movie's not good, by the way. It's not good. It's not a good kids movie. It's not charming. Like I actually am not really sure again like who this movie is for
Well,
because there's a lot of like
it's one of those ones where like a kind of along the lines of like a Mac and Me, or like I don't know, some of the other ones we've done. Not coming to springing to mind at the moment. I literally just woke up 10 minutes ago. Like we're like in the 80s and even a little bit into like the early 90s, like kids movies were fucking baffling when you watch them now, where you're like, why did a kid enjoy this? Why
yeah.
is this like the bleakest and harshest movie possible that still can get like a G or PG rating? Like
Yeah.
fucking Meatloaf is the most unlikable I've ever seen him in anything in this. The fucking one
Yeah.
kid that is like with Meatloaf for like the second half of the movie is unbearable.
Wesley
Yeah.
Wesley the Nazi child.
Yeah, like it's crazy. And just like the entire movie is just like Meatloaf is like a hunter that is a dickhead to everybody, that is trying to track down this Yeti, and is just like fully fine with, I don't know, killing this child and her family to get this creature,
For money,
even
yeah.
even though he, well, I guess would have gotten paid if all the money didn't blow away. But after that point, I would have been like, well, unless you bring me more money, why am I going to go finish this?
Yeah,
It's weird.
I have a lot of issues with this movie as far as like this some of the stuff that happens in this movie is like the worst thing that I've ever seen in a child's movie as far as like um things that well, first of all, I feel like You had texted me when you watched it originally and said like this has one of the most upsetting like things.
Lines in it.
And I think I know what it is, and weirdly, it seemed familiar to me. So I think that at some point in my youth, I'd have definitely seen this movie. But something happens towards the end of the movie that is literally like a huge fear. Like, not just for me, but a lot of people. And I cannot believe that they've put this in a child's
Was
movie.
it two Yetis?
Yes. Two
What?
Yetis that I could not discern which one was supposed to be. Also, giving the Yeti one of the fucking this I hate when they do this in movies and it's like all they do, right? The little girl names the fucking Yeti Hank. A grown-ass man's name is this little Yeti.
Yeah, she like
I
King
don't
of
know
the
what.
Hill. What did you expect her to name it?
Yeah, right. She's a square. She does not know what King of the Hill is. She I couldn't tell which one was Hank either. I was like, is this a who we looking at
I
here?
they 100% just had two animatronics they just pushed out there of the same
Yeah.
creature. Maybe put a
Um,
bow on one of them or some shit.
they could should have because I had no idea who what was going on here. But yeah, this
What?
is
What? I want to know what you think I like the most upsetting line to me was.
when they're talking about if Hank like what gender Hank
Oh yeah,
is.
yeah. And she's like, "It's a boy." I looked, and I was like, "Excuse
Yeah.
me."
Uh-huh. Yeah, how do you know? I looked. I deep seated in my
do
mind, I feel like
do not leave this child alone with this Yeti.
no.
Was my
It
takeaway.
no, because also not to be morbid, not well, it's not morbid. Not to be disgusting, but Hank the Yeti and this child are like the same height, and she's carrying him around the whole time. And I'm just like, I just don't know. I just don't know what's going on here. Before we start though, I do have a soda talk.
Oh yeah, what do you got?
Woohoo! It is Sprite Chill, but it is the strawberry kiwi version.
No, thank you.
I'm really excited. The other one is cherry lime, which I do not like cherry, so I did not get that one. But I also have a tropical Sprite in my fridge that I've been holding on to. Tropical Sprite, like back in the day, was my favorite, so I've been worried to try it because I remember when they did the remix and it was like not the same. But
I do not care about any of the sprites that aren't regular Sprite.
this is delicious.
Hard pass.
I don't know that I super get kiwi. Like I definitely get the strawberry. The color of it is like it's kind of frosted the way like Fresca is, but it's definitely like fruity. I really like it.
Mm, I don't know. I had that Dr Pepper blackberry one. It was gross.
I also said that was gross. So
I had that this week and I finished it because it was the only one I had in the house, but it kind of just tasted like carbonated cough syrup.
this is delicious. This like literally tastes like summer. I like it. I would buy like a whole. Well, originally I only saw like the full cases of it, and so I was like, oh, bummer. I'm not gonna buy it because you know the track record. I would buy a full case of this. It is delicious. I probably will drink the whole thing. Okay. Oh boy. Here we go. That's the best part of this episode for me.
I mean, like overall, this was not like the most unwatchable thing I've seen.
No,
It like
no.
it's just another one of those ones where I'm just like, who like this fit pretty much along the lines of like a gnome named Norm for me, except that I don't believe was specifically supposed to be a kids movie because like they talk about
No,
sex
I
a
would
lot
not
in it,
wanna.
but
Yeah.
like this is one of those ones where it's just like you look at it and you're like, who is this for?
I don't know because there's also like I will say that like there's a lot of like I don't mean this in like a sexual way, but there's a lot of like adult conversations happening where I just feel like if you're a child watching this, you're bored. Like the Yeti is in the background of a lot of this stuff, but he's like not the main character kind of, and there's like all of this stuff behind the scenes with like Grizzly, who is Meatloaf, um, doing essentially like nothing, and then him making fun of his sidekick, whose name is Blubber. So I think you can use your imagination to see why they're making jokes, even though he looks like a normal guy to me. Like, I don't really understand
I thought it was
that part
supposed
of
to
it.
be yeah, I don't know. I don't understand that entire character other than like he's
No,
supposed to be
I
the
don't
dumb
either.
punching bag. But I was like, he's not like a fat person where like that
Right.
joke would make sense. And I don't know if it's supposed to be like he's like, I know this is not like the right word. I'm not sure. I guess like I don't know what Eskimo is now. Where like I was like, okay, maybe he's supposed to be that, but I'm like, that doesn't make it. Like nothing about that character made sense. Like why name him Blubber? It made no sense to me.
I could be wrong, but I think the term now is Inuit, but he's
Oh
not.
yeah, that would
Absolutely
make
no,
sense.
absolutely not. But so yeah, I just like didn't get him at all because there's like all of these like jokes where he's like, I don't know, shown being stupid, quote unquote stupid, and like doing like that scene where he's like dinging the bell. And I will also say this movie uses music really weird because like they'll use a song that's like I assume public domain, and they'll like play it normal over like whenever the scene is happening, but then they'll like cut over to people talking and they'll play just like the background music of it, and then they'll cut back and they'll be singing, and it's like extremely strange.
I honestly don't know if I remember a single piece of music in this movie.
They
I,
were like
I
they were
feel like
like
everything after the like it's a boy I looked line just like became a blur to me.
they played that. I think it's the Carpenters maybe that's like
Oh yeah, I remember that
top of
popping
the
up in like the
world.
credits or whatever.
Then they played some like country song about Amy, like the girl's name is Amy, so it's like I don't know, like I recognize the song, but of course now it's been a few days since I watched it at this
Yeah,
point. So, but
I'll
anyways,
see if any of it's listed on IMDb.
okay. And that's why I said also like these are like very common songs, so like I feel they must be public domain for them to get the rights. But the other thing to me is that like this came out in 1995. The puppet, even though he's a little freaky looking, is like he's a full puppet animatronic or like whatever he is, and so it just seems to me like they went through the the like hassle of like making this puppet and then like this is the movie that comes out of it. Like
I mean,
I don't
that's
know.
how I feel about most of these movies, where I'm like, somebody probably spent months making this thing
Yeah.
work and then like did nothing with it.
Yeah, yeah,
It just like sits in the background and its eyes kind of move a little bit, and that's about it.
yeah. I wish they really made a choice having his like bottom lids being closed like the whole time. I don't know
Yeah, he
what was
looks
going on
high
with that.
90% of the time.
Yes, yes. That okay. I said cheeky. High is definitely more of the word.
There's
Um,
times where like he's just in the background, kind of like we talked about like the joke in Frankie Frico where it'll cut to
that
Frankie and he's just not moving. It's,
that's
and like
literally
there's
all I could
moments
think about.
where
The
the
skateboard scene.
like there's points where like people will be talking and like he's just sitting in the background unmoving. It's like
Yeah.
just
Well,
vibing.
there's a yeah, he is. There's a scene where he's like quote unquote fleeing on a skateboard, but it's like very obvious they just put the like unmoving puppet on a skateboard and then pushed it. And like that's all I could think of. Okay. Well, my first line is just what the fuck.
Yep.
Because the movie starts with like somebody, maybe Meatloaf, I don't know. Somebody's like kind of spoken word ish singing a song about Bigfoot. And then there's just like shots of the character Blubber like looking up into the sky to like random images. And like sometimes it's Bigfoot. And then sometimes it's just like a bunch of donuts.
Yeah.
And I'm already like, what is going on here? So this is where we meet Meatloaf's character. His name is Mr. Grizzly, and then his sidekick Blubber. And Grizzly says that when they catch the Bigfoot, they're gonna have it made. And Blubber is helping. Basically, this like opening is like just introducing them and the fact that they're like essentially bounty hunters, and they're going to like hunt a Yeti, or well, they say Bigfoot specifically. And there's just like scenes of Blubber being quote unquote dumb. Like he puts on his gloves and then he like makes puppets out of the gloves, and I was like, all right, great. Now we're at the Himalayas, and they see a Yeti like pretty immediately.
I will
And
say I do think it's very fun. The one thing in this that I thought was clever is the idea that they were like, well, everyone just thinks because it's like Bigfoot, like the tracks are so big, it's got to be this huge creature. I do think it's funny the idea that this is like little like child-sized creature, but just has huge feet.
like his feet are essentially the size of his body.
Yeah,
And he's like the size of like a 12-year-old. His feet are fucking honkers.
I think that was like a clever like idea
Yeah,
for it, where they're just like, well,
sure.
the reason no one can ever find Bigfoot is they're looking for this like huge like humanoid hulking creature, and he's actually like 3 feet tall, but he's got huge feet.
Yeah, he's this tiny little, he's just like a freaky little guy. Yeah, so they see the Yeti pretty much immediately, and Grizzly tells Blubber, like, if you mess this up, I'm gonna fucking kill you. He's literally threatening people this entire movie, right? And so they sneak up on the Yeti. The Yeti, like, hears them and immediately goes skiing off on his big old fucking feet. And there's, like, basically just, like, a long scene of him, like, skiing down the mountain in his feet, on his feet. It looks
And in them.
great. What?
I said and in them.
It, and eventually he skis right into a tent, and he's like hiding into the tent, hiding in the tent. The Grizzly and Blubber come and are like, oh, where did he go? His track's in here, whatever. Oh, he must be in the tent. And they like corner him. But then the owners of the tent come and are like, at first I was like, why are they being so weird? Like there's just like they're in the middle of the Himalayas, and like they have this like weird conversation where they're like, where are you from? And they're like, Texas. And they're like, where are you from? And they're like, Canada. And I was just like, what? But like the one guy is like really sus and like looking at them like sus. And then we find out that guy's a cop. And I was like, oh, okay. That makes a lot more sense. I was like, why is he being so abrasive here?
Yeah, they're like this entire conversation, like back and forth, is very awkwardly done.
It's so
And like
strange.
for no reason, like I was like, oh, maybe there's going to be like some like weird, maybe like a legal backstory as to why they're there or something, and it's not. There's just nothing. It's just a fucking weird, awkward thing for no reason.
Yeah, and like obviously Grizzly doesn't want these like pedestrians to know that they're like he's hunting a Yeti or whatever, but like I don't know, it's just like very weird. And so we find out that the two guys are I wrote skiers, but they're actually just like mountain
Yeah, they were
climbers. Like
climbers.
and so they're like, okay, well, we're leaving, so get the fuck out of here. So like Blubber and Grizzly leave. The skier or the hikers like pack up their gear or whatever, and the one guy who I called Dad, I don't know what his actual name was, it doesn't matter. He basically packs up his gear and remarks on how it's weird because everything won't fit into his backpack, even though it did on the way up. And so for us, smarties, we know that the Yeti is in his backpack, okay?
Oh, I was shocked for
Um,
one.
well, I know. And then Grizzly and Blubber are like, "Oh, where'd those guys go?" And then they look over, and they see like the plane flying away with the hikers. And they're like, "Ah, no worries. We'll just let those hikers take them home, and then we'll get them there." And I was like, realistically, how would you ever know who the fuck they are?
Weren't
But
they
it's
in
fine.
like Alaska or some shit? I forget where they were at.
They were in the Himalayas, so wherever that is,
Yeah, I'm just gonna say Alaska. I mean,
probably
I know they had. Let's see. Uh, no, that's not. Oh,
Tibet.
Asia. They had
Yeah.
to fly back to Asia with this fucking thing snuck onto an
Yep.
airplane at the end of the movie.
Mhm.
Great.
Easy. So easy peasy.
Again, that's clearly pre 9/11 because they just throw this thing in the
Oh my
fucking
god.
like metal detector and like it's
Also,
fine.
the airport scene was like really upsetting to me too. Okay, so he's like, "Don't worry about it. We'll just go figure out where the people live or whatever." Okay, so the guy gets home, and the dad is basically like talking to his family about the climb, because they're like his biggest supporters, and they're like, "Oh, did you make it to the top of the mountain?" And the dad is like, "Yeah, actually, I did." And you're looking at one of the only two people that have climbed the south face of blah 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 blah, whatever the fuck he's talking about. And I was like, okay, great. And he's like, all right, well, I'm really tired because it seems to me that they did this climb and then immediately flew home. And he's just like, hey. And so he's like, I'm tired. I'm gonna go like take a shower. And his daughter, Amy, is like, um, I made you a pumpkin pie. Do you want some? He's like, yeah, I'll have some after I shower. And then Amy does something really weird. Like, I understand it's a plot device, but she brings him a slice of the weirdest looking pumpkin pie and just puts it on the floor in front of the bathroom.
Yeah.
Just wait till he fucking gets done with his shower, you
I
weirdo.
don't know. I would like to get out of the shower, just have some pie waiting for me.
On your floor?
Well, maybe not on the floor, but
That's what I'm saying. On the carpet? Gross. Okay. So of course,
why do
like
you have
we
carpet in the
see,
bathroom to begin with?
well, it's like outside their bathroom. They have carpet.
Those think
I don't
nice
have
rich
carpet.
people.
I refuse to buy a house that had carpet in it. By the way, because that's vile. Okay, so so Amy leaves, and we see Dad's backpack start to move around, and then the Yeti comes out of the backpack, and of course grabs the pumpkin pie and is eating it. This causes just the funniest misunderstanding because the dad thinks that she like brought up an empty plate and spoon and she or plate and fork to eat the pie and she thinks that he ate it and is pretending like he didn't, so they have a laugh about that and I'm like, okay,
What a fucking
you guys need
unfunny
some hobbies.
family.
Right, exactly. um then they're basically like downstairs talking and they're just like, oh, whatever. And he's like, oh, by the way, Amy, I left you a gift upstairs. And so she runs upstairs and starts going through his bag, which is like, again, weird. Like, why don't get the present for her and give it to her? Instead, you want her to dig through your bag of like dirty, crusty mountain climbing underwear and shit. I don't know. Weird. And she screams. They all run upstairs and she's like, oh, my present was an animal and it ran behind the chair. And they're like, what are you talking about? Also, they're like in Canada and like, however, like the dad and Amy don't really seem to have an accent, and then the mom's British. And I was like, okay.
Aren't they in New
I mean, like,
York?
I thought they said they lived in Canada. That's
No,
why I
like
was so
I'm
confused.
pretty
I think
sure they say it's New York, or maybe the other, like
the
no.
rich family lives in New York because they take the train there.
Hmm.
I thought, let's see.
Maybe I don't remember. I'm not gonna pretend like I fucking paid real close attention to the dialogue in this movie because who cares?
I was pretty sure that they said they lived in Albany, but like, anyways, it doesn't matter. Either way, um, not like any. I don't know. You can live anywhere and have any kind of accent. I just thought it was kind of interesting choice.
I mean, I know
Dad's
at least like all of the big chase stuff is in New York because the tagline.
maybe they just like lied to them
You
and said,
know, Canada,
yeah, we're
Canada,
from
the Big Apple.
well, while it is, you're right. It is also a good practice if you're American, if you're traveling somewhere, just tell people you're from Canada instead of America. So that works out.
No,
That
say
tracks.
specifically you're from Texas.
Well, that's what,
Everyone loves Texas.
right. That's what what's his face said, and that's why I was like, huh? Why? Anyways, it doesn't matter. The Yeti's behind the chair. The parents kind of like argue about like what they should do, and Amy just like immediately makes friends with
Yeah, give
him.
him Oreo.
And she's like, oh, he's probably hungry. So they go and get a plate of food. And yeah, the first thing she tries to feed him is an Oreo,
It would
which,
work on me.
right, I feel like probably chocolate isn't the first thing to start with if there's some random animal in your house, but that's fine.
Especially because most of them
Then,
can't have chocolate. This
right,
movie's
then
only
she
20 minutes.
says,
She kills it immediately with an Oreo.
actually, literally, goodbye. Then she says something which really also took me aback because she says, I'll try a Frankfurter.
Yeah, I was like, what kid says the word Frankfurter, not hot dog?
No fucking kid. And then she's like, oh, guess he doesn't like a Frankfurter because he's a vegetarian. Haha. And I was like, no offense, but I don't think this thing is living in like the barren Arctic and like is a vegetarian. I just like don't think that that's sustainable.
He did eat
Um,
the Oreo, so he might be.
yeah, that's true actually. So meanwhile, like Grizzly goes to talk to his bosses, which are this like rich family, and we find out that he was like hired by the family to capture and bring back a Yeti for their son who was spoiled. And they're like they're thinking that they are hiring somebody to capture Bigfoot, aka they keep like describing him as being like huge and bloodthirsty and violent. Like they want this violent creature for their son because it's like he is, says the mom. This is when dad and mom essentially basically just are like give in to the fact that it's a Yeti, and well, not that it's a Yeti, but that it's there, and there's just like totally chill with it. And this is the scene we were talking about earlier when I don't remember what the mom says, but basically Amy says, "It's a he, mom," and she says, "How do you know?" And then Amy goes, "I looked." They
Yeah.
don't react to this at all.
Yeah, no one
That
cares.
is that is disturbing. I mean, technically, I guess like he's an animal, so like fine, but also why? Why is this in here at all? Who cares?
Yeah, I would say like literally just say it's
It's
a
a
boy or
fucking
what. Like who gives a shit? I don't need a fucking
yeah,
reason why they know. I'll just go with it.
yeah. The dad recalls running into Grizzly and Blubber because I think that Blubber dumbly says like oh like mentions like oh we're looking for a Yeti, but they all kind of just like write it off, and so he remembers like that weird exchange happening with the hunters, and he's like, oh, they must have like chased this thing into my tent and then I brought it back, so it all clicks to him. This is when we see the Yeti is like sitting up on the counter, and this is where we see how shockingly huge his feet are. It's like the length of his entire body essentially. Then suddenly the Yeti has a fever and he's like shaking and he's literally wilting before their eyes and dying. And they're just like, oh no, here, give him some ice cream. And there's like this long scene of him like laying in the sink and her being like, please, it's good for you. Please, please, it's good for you. And this goes on for like 10 minutes of them like tricking us into thinking he's dying. And then he's just fine. Like, okay. Um,
Like
they,
there's like they try to add all of this drama to this movie that like is
yes,
unneeded
it's
and
not,
like dumb. Like
yeah.
what I would have rather had is had like them like just doing weird shit and being friends or whatever, instead of like this constant drama of like it's too hot, he's too warm, we gotta get him in the freezer, now we gotta get him here, and like just like let them hang out, be friends. Meatloaf comes and steals it, they gotta go get it back or something.
Yeah, there's like almost, again, it's like one of those movies where there's like essentially no bonding, but for some reason, this is like the most Amy's ever cared about a thing in her entire life.
Yeah.
Like immediately. And I'm like, I mean, I get it. I like animals, but I don't know. I'm not sold here. Um, so they realize that, he's not used to the warm climate because he is, from the Himalayas. So they clear out the fridge so that he can sleep in there. And then they leave the door wide open. And I was like, all right. Um, then in the morning, they come downstairs. Amy's sleeping on the floor, and she says, the Yeti was lonely. I decided to be with him.
These people are fucking rich, but they were just gonna leave their freezer door open.
Seriously. And like, what about the food that was in there?
Well, I just assume they
Um,
think that Yeti's gonna eat all of it.
well, he does. So they're stupid. He trashes the house. There's food everywhere. And they're basically just like, oh no. Oh my God, look at our house. And she's like, he didn't know any better. And I'm like, okay. And then they like have this like argument. Basically, this entire movie is just like Amy and her parents arguing with each other. Amy's like, they're like, oh, maybe we should call somebody. And she's like, no, we can't. They'll put him in a cage, etc., etc. And I'm like, yeah,
What
he's
do you
also like a
think
wild.
him living in your house is?
I mean, actually, so true. So, they go upstairs. Amy is trying to like clean all of the fucking ice cream and shit out of his fur, while he eats soap and also toothpaste. I wrote dumb kids movie stuff, so I think it's just them sort of palling around. Oh no, this is like Amy showing him all of her stuffed animals and being like, this is George, and this is Blue Bunny, and this is whatever. And he's just like, I don't understand English. And this is when Amy decides that she's going to name him Hank because she had a dog that looked like him that was named Hank. Great. Um,
That's like the most you get as to like why she is obsessed with this creature immediately.
yeah. Blubber and Grizzly are trying to track down the climber. Oh, okay. And they go to like a newspaper place and they look in the newspaper and they see like a thing about how dad and that his cop friend like climbed that mountain or whatever, and that's how he's able to like find out and track where he is.
I feel
So
like there would
maybe
be a much bigger deal about these two guys climbing this mountain than there is.
no, nobody
There's
cares.
just like a blurb in the newspaper.
Literally. And like their local newspaper, essentially. And I'm gonna also say everybody in this movie is does the worst thing. Like nobody's looking out for anybody because so he basically gets the name of the guy and he in an article in the newspaper it says that he owns like a camping gear store. And so Grizzly goes there and immediately is just like, "Hey," to the clerk, "I know this guy that runs the store and I'm supposed to go to his house, but I don't know his address. Can you give it to me?" And she just does. And I was like, "Girl." And then when they confront her about it, she's like, "I didn't think I did anything wrong. Why are you giving out this guy's address?"
It was the 90s. We all did that.
Let- Fair. Um, okay, I wrote, goes to the camping gear store, gets address from sales associate. He goes to the house and knocks, and I wrote, "Stupid ass Amy opens the door."
Yeah. I mean, I have like, I can remember like just being like someone like a parent just being, "Hey, go answer the door," as if like now you
No,
think back on it, you're like, what the fuck were we doing?
yeah, no, I did answer the door, but like only if my parents were home. Would never open the door if I was home alone. Amy is home alone. I don't even know what her parents are doing, but they're like, "All right, there's this wild creature that we brought from the Himalayas is here, but we're gonna leave. Peace out." She leaves, and like the mom goes to run errands, and the dad like goes to check in at the store or whatever. Amy opens the door, and Grizzly, like to be fair, she does use that little like security chain, but that is not doing shit. He just like pushes the door open because he's like 10 feet
I'll say, you
tall.
see how big Meatloaf is in this movie?
Seriously, he's huge. He's got on a jacket of furs. Okay, he could get through anything. Um, Grizzly asks for the Yeti, like just breaks in, whatever. Meanwhile, the clerk is telling the dad about how the hunters came in, and she doesn't think she did anything wrong, but she's like, "Oh yeah, I gave him your address." And of course, the dad's like, "Oh my fucking god!" Gets on the phone with like the cop friend or whatever. Amy and Hank are basically being chased around their and Amy also has some explaining to do because she's like 10. She's an expert of sneaking out windows. She does it constantly. She sneaks out the window with Hank. She is holding so she holds him like a teddy bear, but again, he's like the same size as her, so it looks
And
hilarious.
his arms are
She comes
like 9 feet long.
Yeah, she comes running around the side of the house, and I wrote Hank's big old floppers. His feet are just fucking flapping in the wind. And Grizzly has gone outside and just like literally fucking snatches Hank. She like put a jacket on him for some reason. I'm not sure why, but he just like grabs the collar of the jacket and just like snatches Hank away. And then they lock Amy in the basement.
Yeah.
Uh, Amy happens to look outside the window and sees the license plate on the limo that the hunters are driving says dollars. Because, if you're gonna do a crime, you should definitely have a vanity plate and be driving a limo.
I mean, every
Um,
hunter I've ever known drives a limo, so.
Definitely. You need all that room for like your carcasses and whatnot.
Hmm?
Um, the dad arrives home and Amy's like, "Dad, I'm locked in the basement. Help me out." And like the door's already open as she's yelling this. So I was like, "Chill out." Um, this is when technically we find out that the other hiker is a cop and they essentially get the license plate number from Amy, and he like calls it in or whatever, and
I,
Amy
I'm
confirms.
not gonna lie, I had a zero memory of this other guy even being in the rest of the movie.
The only reason that I remember him is because he's like in the very first scene, and he's being so sus, and I just thought like the whole conversation between them was weird. Every other time we see him, he arrives as a cop, but he literally pretty much doesn't do anything, so it's like,
For some reason, in
whatever.
my memory, because I watched this like 2 or 3 days ago. Like
Yeah.
he is in that beginning, and then they have the scene with the Yeti in their house, and then in my mind it cuts immediately to like the scene where they bring the money that blows away in the wind.
So, okay, again. Okay, so this is when Amy confirms that like yes, Hank is a Yeti. We're all the confirmations are out or whatever. And the cop so the cop calls in the vanity plate, and the dispatch gives him the address that the limo is registered to, and then the cop gives it to his friends.
Mm-hmm.
What in the
It
fuck?
was the '90s. We were lawless.
Obviously, every single time something like this exchange of information stuff happened, I just was like flabbergasted. The cops just like, here you go. Why don't you go to this private residence by yourselves and rescue your Yeti?
I'm
Because then,
shocked that the entire thing wasn't like him just giving it to Amy with no adults around.
okay, essentially it is. Okay, so then the cop gives the family the address, right? And so basically Amy's like, we have to go, we have to save Hank. And the dad and the mom are essentially just like, I don't think so. Like, this is something that we shouldn't be doing. It's dangerous, whatever. And Amy's like pissed off because they don't want to save Hank, so she storms upstairs to her room. There's this when Amy sneaks out her window again and then gets on a bus to New York, which is where the rich people live.
I know we haven't gotten to it yet, but this and then the taxi scene broke my fucking brain.
So then it switches over to the rich family's house. They literally have a what you would consider a stereotypical French maid. Like she is a French maid in the outfit.
Yeah, they're
Wesley,
like cartoon character rich people.
literally,
Like
yes.
they
And
might as well have just
Wesley,
like shown them diving into a Scrooge McDuck fucking room full of coins.
literally, and their son is like Sid from Toy Story, but rich instead of being
No,
trailer
their
trash.
son is like the fucking I can't think of the Pee Wee's fucking villain in Pee Wee's Big Adventure.
I don't remember.
Where like he's like he's like trying to get his bike and like almost drowns him in the pool.
Like essentially, he basically is like a Nazi child
Yeah,
also
he's literally. I
because
think he's supposed to
that,
like. They're like without saying it in a kids movie. They're basically equating him to being like a Nazi, and it's wild.
yeah, it's very strange. Um, this is when so it's like basically just like showing us this scene at like again, we spend a lot of time with this rich family, even though they're like not like we spend a lot of time with them for no reason. And then it just switches back to the parents finding out because the cop called the bus station, finding out that a girl matching her description had bought a bus ticket to New York, even though they never actually showed us the parents realizing that Amy was gone. So this was weird to me. And they're basically like,
Can you imagine, like, you have a child, and now you have this fucking mythical creature in your house, and just like having any moment that you are just like, I don't know where they're at. Like
no,
I don't care. They'll fucking do something. Like
it's fine. So then,
I feel like I would constantly be in whatever room this Yeti was in. Hello?
hello.
Hello?
Okay, that was very strange. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
That was so weird. Yeah, agree. Especially like I don't know the whole situation. Like, and especially somebody just broke into your house and locked your daughter in a basement, and you're like, yeah, sure, go up to your room by yourself. Like what? So, okay.
Why is
This
the
is where
guy from Rocky Horror Picture Show locking my kid in a room? Oh well, go up to the
it's
other room.
fine. It seems fine. Uh, the parents are basically just like, okay, we have to go to New York. Let's go. And the mom is like, wait, we can't. The car's broken down. I left it at the supermarket. And then they're like, okay, okay, well maybe we can take the train. And like the parents are having this entire conversation that's like going on, and I'm like, just ask the fucking cop to take you. And then so finally the cop is like the least dumb person in here, and it's just like, hey, why don't I just drive you? You'll arrive. We'll get there before the bus or whatever, which is a great idea. But then the cop drops them off and then leaves. Like
Yeah.
doesn't stay to help. He just leaves, drops them off, and then they're just like illegally on these people's property. There's like a fence around their gate around their house and everything too, and they're just like prowling around. And I was like, this entire movie is illegal. Every single thing that
Yes,
happens in
100%.
it is illegal. Um, so that all side stuff is happening with like the cop and the parents, right? Meanwhile, Grizzly gives the rich family Hank, and they're basically shocked about the size. And Wesley is mad that Hank is just a weird little guy instead of being like a huge vicious Bigfoot or whatever. And
I need to know
they
what their plan was. If they
I'm
got a real Bigfoot that was like 7 foot tall, it would have just eaten all three of them.
I really think they wanted this Bigfoot to murder their
I
child.
mean,
I think
yes.
they hate him
By the time you get to
and
the
they
end
want
and you
him
realize
dead.
that they hate this child.
Yeah, and like for a good reason, but you made him this way, so I don't know. Like okay, so basically like there's like all of these scenes between like Wesley and Grizzly where they're just like in like threatening each other, and essentially Grizzly is just like, if you don't shut the fuck up, I'm gonna throw you across the room. And then he fucking does it, and it was so funny. He just like picked him up and like threw him across the room. The mom seemed stoked on it, by the way.
If this was
And
all you
Grizzly,
got of these two, I would have been like, hell yeah, that's pretty funny. But then you spend like the rest of
yes,
the
yes,
movie with
yes.
the two of them and it sucks.
Yeah, there was no reason for it. And this is when Grizzly is like, I gave you the Yeti, give me my money. And they're like, okay, well, we have to go send like a courier like to go get your money or whatever. So it'll be a minute. Okay. This is when Amy's mom and dad arrive at the property, and they're just like on these people's property wandering around. And I was like, illegal. And um they basically hear crying, and they find Amy. She has not figured out how to get inside. She's just like on the property also crying. So basically they're like, okay, he's like this confused me because the dad is just like, okay, we are not like confronting these people. This is dangerous. We're going to turn everything over to the authorities. And I was like, what are you talking about? You're going to turn you're just going to do you mean like give the Yeti to somebody? Like, you guys didn't do anything to be turning over things to the authorities. And he's like, we need to go home. Like, let's go. Like, we can't be doing this. And this is when there's like a scene of Wesley, like, quote unquote, dancing to rock music. And he's like shooting Hank with like a Nerf gun. And Hank is like screaming. And they hear it. And Amy is like, oh no, that's Hank. He's screaming. We have to help him. And so the mom basically convinces the dad just to pretend to be there on business to get us in the door. And I was like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
So so the dad goes up to the front door, knocks on it, and is like, hey, I'm a customs agent and I need to talk about the Yeti. And the maid's like, okay, come on in. Okay, it was that easy. And so somehow, because the maid let him in, I guess she leaves the door unlocked, and mom and Amy just run in the house. And I was like, what is going on? Breaking it, like, we're adding more breaking and entering here. And they just like wander around this house completely unseen by anybody else that lives there somehow. They're able to.
You know what the ending of this movie should have been? Like Dragnet style, like wanted pictures or whatever, pictures being taken of everybody, including the Yeti, where they do like
Yeah.
the front and then sideways, where you're explaining like the crimes they committed.
Yeah. Definitely. Or they should have just like gone in the house and then everybody got shot. The end.
Or, like I said, like 10 minutes in, the Bigfoot eats everyone in the house, the end of the movie.
Exactly. Okay. So Mom and Amy wandering around, they immediately find Hank, and Amy just punches Wesley out in the face, which is good. The dad is just saying a bunch of random stuff to like the rich guy, like business, 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 essentially. And
That's all Kate and I hear
then
when people talk about any sort of like stock market, anything like that.
exactly, like you get what I'm saying. So then they're like, oh my god, Hank, and they go running, and everybody's running out of the house, but they run into Grizzly, who is in the hallway, and they all struggle. Amy is able to get free with Hank alone and just like runs out, right? Everyone else then everyone kind of like struggles and falls over or whatever. Amy breaks free and runs. Everyone else like runs out of the house sort of after, and this is when like the couriers are bringing the bounty for Grizzly, and they run into them, and the suitcases fly open, and money flies everywhere. And then they're like, money, money, and they're trying to grab the money, and Wesley's like, yeah, $100. And the dad's like, don't you get any of that money? I was like, there's gotta be, surely, no lock on the briefcase that carries thousands and thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, this is when money flies everywhere, and then the rich guy calls the cops, essentially, puts a bounty or puts out like a warrant, whatever, because he owns the cops, of course. This is when Amy gets into a cab and is like a taxi and is like, hit it, and so he starts driving away, and the guy's like, do you have any money? And she's like, yeah, I got $3, and he goes, give it to me. And so she hands over the $3, and he's like, now get out.
I like again another thing, and like this. Oh, well, I don't know. I'm sure somebody. Well, we won't even get into real world aspects of this, but like, I love in like a movie like this where like a cab driver is just like, yeah, I'll pick up this child and this fucking creature no one has ever
Stuffed
seen
animal.
before, and then also is just like, I'm gonna drive them 4 blocks away and just dump them where they don't know where they're at.
Like literally. And she's like, I'm a child, and he's like, I don't give a shit. I think that taxi cab driver was you, actually.
No, like I mean, yes, in as much as I don't care about children, but I also would have been like, why are you out here by yourself? I'm
Yeah.
taking you to an
There's yeah.
orphanage. You're gonna become
Drop her off at
Robin.
the pound. Okay, so she gets kicked out, right? Okay, so now Amy and Hank are just like hiding behind some twigs in the park, and Grizzly and Blubber come, and he's like, okay, we're gonna track them, and they're like looking around. They like immediately find them because again, there's like twigs. This is when Hank skateboards through the park, and again, they just put the puppet on a skateboard and push him, and
You
it's so
you
funny.
couldn't do one of these movies in the '90s
And it's like
without them
nowhere to run
being
to,
either
baby.
on a skateboard or like rollerblades.
Yeah, or in like a red flyer or some
Yeah.
shit. And this is
How did
when
this thing's
and like
feet work on a skateboard?
no, it literally was laying on its stomach, like full laid out on its stomach with its feet up in the back, and just
I think you
somehow
made
that
this
was
scene
working.
up because I have no memory of it.
What? Are you kidding?
I mean, again, I watched this a couple days ago, and this movie went right in and right out after the fucking "I looked" line. I literally like there are chunks of this movie that like as you talk about it, I'm like that sounds familiar, but there's parts where I'm just like, I swear, like there was nothing in between them like getting the Yeti, and then all of a sudden they're like at the fucking house and the money's flying everywhere.
No,
Like
yeah, he's just.
this is just one of those ones that I was just like, it is just in and out of my brain.
I'm trying to. Oh, Riff Tracks did a. I was trying to find a picture of him on the skateboard, but
Yeah, that like
anyway,
when I looked up to post a picture for like today about like what the next episode is or whatever, like it's just all close ups of his face and pictures of Meatloaf.
yeah, and his big old feet. Um, Yeah, okay, so they're chasing Amy. Amy happens to find this karate guy that is like she's like, "Oh, help me, they're chasing me." And he's like, "I'll stop them." And then they just like immediately kick him in the balls. Great. This is when Hank on the skateboard like rides the skateboard out of the park into traffic and he is getting heat stroke all of a sudden. He's just like, "Whoa, and Amy finds him, of course. Um, the parents are like, well, we don't know what happened to her, so we're just gonna wait at the train station for a few hours because she knows that we're supposed to take the train home. They do nothing. Great parents. This is when and so Amy now is trying to find a way to like stop Hank from having heat stroke. They announce on the radio that there is a reward out for the arrest of like the parents, Amy and the Yeti. And somehow people who see her walking by the street just like know that's her and start chasing her.
Mm-hmm.
She's a fucking child.
Yeah,
Amy
well, she's
happens
a criminal,
upon
so
I mean, actually fair. Amy happens upon a like freezer box truck thing and goes in the back and ends up getting locked inside. Amy, it like cuts back to like Amy like dying because it's too cold back there, and Hank goes "Ah!" and like screams really loud, and the people who are driving their truck are like, "What the fuck is that?" So they they pull over and open the back, and Amy's just like, "Thanks for the lift. Where's the train station?" And the guy is just like befuddled. Um,
I'll take you all the way to
Amy,
Nepal.
yeah, right. Chop in. Amy and Hank and Grizzly and Blubber both all arrive at the train station at the same time. The parents are like hiding in an alcove and like grab Amy, and they're like, "Oh, we're so happy to see you." So then they're basically just like, "Okay, well, we can't." Also, what the fuck is whatever? Meatloaf and Blubber like standing in the middle of the train station, and excuse me. I could not stop that.
Eh.
They're like how are we gonna get past them? And then the dad's like this fucking makes no sense. The dad is like, well, they know what me and Amy look like, but they don't know what you look like. And then it cuts to them like doing this disguise where he is dressed up as like a train worker and he's pushing a trunk on a trolley that has obviously has Amy and the Yeti inside, and then the wife is just pretending to be like a rich mom or whatever, and I was just like, how what? Where did they get all this shit? Anyways, they're able to like walk past them. Blubber checks the truck or the train and is like nobody, they're not here or whatever, and then Grizzly just like has a sixth sense that they actually are, and like they essentially are able to like get on the train as Grizzly runs up and it's just like, "Hey, stop the train," and he's just like jumping next to it instead of like getting on.
Eh.
So they get away. Um, let's see. Oh, I see. Okay. Um, Grizzly calls the rich guy and is essentially just like, "Hey, do you own the police in Albany? I need you to call them." So all that's where I got Albany. That's where their like winter cabin is in Albany. So they're like, call the cops in Albany, have them waiting there. And I'm gonna go like head them off or whatever. And the rich guy, and then Wesley is like, "It's my Yeti, I'm going too." And so the dad, essentially the rich dad, bribes Grizzly into taking the son with him, and they're literally so happy, the parents, that they're gonna go on a trip to Greece for the afternoon. Great. This is when Dad calls his friend who is like the hiker slash cop and basically like is like, "Hey, we're gonna get off." Grizzly really didn't think of this, but they're basically getting off a stop early and asks if the cop can come and pick them up and give them a ride. And he says yes, but they never actually show this happening. And this is when like for some reason Grizzly finds a photo of the family in front of their cabin, which is in the Adirondacks, and like that's where the family is gone, and he's like, "Oh great, I know where they're gonna be." So like Grizzly is not a good hunter at all. He just like looks into
Yeah,
information.
it's baffling. Like, because like every time they're like talking about like how good of a hunter he is, everything they show is him just like falling ass backwards into information.
Literally. So they're at the Adirondacks, and again, the cop just like drops them off and does not stay to like make sure that they're safe or anything. He's just like, okay, bye, enjoy your remote cabin in the wilderness where nobody can get to you if you need help. There's just like some more hijinks where Amy and Hank are sledding, and the parents are basically just like, we'll have to decide what to do soon. Yeah, I would think so. And then the dad calls them in for dinner, whatever. Um, this is the part I was talking about that is like literally a nightmare, and I can't believe that they have this in a child's movie, where they are essentially like like they know that the cabin is in the Adirondacks, and so they drive up there, and they're like, they know what the cabin looks like, but they're just like driving around and checking cabins, and like most of them are empty because of the time of year it is.
This movie should
And
have just been called like Rich People and Their Problems.
like, oh, like literally. So then they're like, okay, this is the last cabin. There's a light on. That definitely means it's them. And Wesley's like, great, let's go. And Grizzly's like, no, we're gonna wait to get them when they're asleep. Home? What the fuck? Why are you putting this in a kids movie? We're gonna wait till this house goes to sleep and then we're gonna break in and fucking kill them. Because then Wesley is like, oh, by the way, my dad keeps shotguns in the trunk of the car. Oh my god. And then Wesley says, the little girl's mine. I'm going to pay her back. And I was like, they are going to murder this family in this child's Yeti movie.
Mm. Honestly, if
Um
this movie would have went there where like the fucking mom was murdered or some shit, 5 stars.
I agree. I agree. If this would have took a weird turn into being like an actually like gruesome, sad movie, then like I would have been there for it. But essentially what happens is that night, as everybody's sleeping, Hank wakes Amy up because like he can't sleep or whatever, and she hears Grizzly and them breaking into the house. Amy and Hank do what they always do, which is that they sneak out the window.
Do
There's
you
like
like? I feel like this movie deserves the like reputation that like Mac and Me has. Like Mac and Me is disturbing solely because those aliens are naked the whole movie. But like I feel like this movie is way more like horrific as a kids movie than Mac and Me was.
I think
I guess because Mac and Me is essentially a McDonald's commercial, but
right. I think
there is more horrifying shit happening in this movie than I felt like happened in Mac and Me.
yeah, I agree with that. I think that the only reason that Mac and Me is just like way zanier. Like the stuff that happens is just
Like
like
Mac and Me feels like a kids movie. This doesn't. This feels like a
no,
kid's
yeah.
nightmare.
Like literally, yeah. And I think that like just because of I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of there's like equally as much horrific stuff. I think though Mac and Me makes a little bit more sense as a movie than this one does. And like nothing fun happens in this
Yeah, that's
one.
the thing. Is like I feel like there's like shit in Mac and Me where I'm like, if I watched this as a child, I would be wildly entertained. Like the dance scene in the McDonald's is insane. Like they have like the entire chase through the mall or whatever. Like there's stuff that happens in that movie that I would have been like, as a child, I would have watched it and been like, this is kind of funny. If I watched
Yeah.
this, I would have been like, I'm horrified.
That's what I'm saying.
Our big
Like
man going to break into our house and steal my dog. What's happening?
people like literally people are giving away people's addresses. The cops aren't doing anything. People are breaking into other people's houses. People are waiting until the family is asleep to break in and maybe murder them. They've got guns. I don't know. I don't like it. And then, okay, so it gets worse, obviously. So that night while everyone's sleeping, yeah, Hank happens to wake her up. She hears and sees them breaking in. They go out the window again, of course. I feel like at this point you station somebody at the window, but that's my personal opinion. There's like this weird POV from Grizzly's perspective of the dad being like, "Oh, Grizzly, what the heck are you doing here? Come on, man, for real," being like very nonchalant about the situation. And basically he like gets the mom and dad and ties them up to a chair and then yells out the door that he will release mom and dad if Amy brings Hank back. They're again tied up, and Amy basically like looks at Hank and is just like, "Don't worry, I won't turn you in." I was like, "Your parents are about to be fucking executed."
Yeah, but to be fair, if I had this thing, I'd be like, yeah, let him go. I'll live with Hank.
That I mean, fair. Then there's like this weird fucking thing where like Amy's out there scheming and like doing whatever shenanigans she is out there, and they're inside, and Wesley is basically just like, "This isn't working. Like, we need to go hunt her or whatever." And Grizzly's just like, "Don't worry, she's gonna be getting cold soon. She'll be begging to get in, begging. She'll be begging."
Mm-hmm.
And he like says it really slow and it like zooms in on his face, and I'm like, what in the motherfucker is happening here? It's so scary. So Wesley is like, whatever, I'm gonna do whatever I want. So Wesley like goes out and like chases her, and essentially she has somehow dug a huge ass pit, and Wesley falls down into it, and then she hits him in the head with a shovel. Again, I just can't reiterate how baffling it is to me that this is a gag in movies, because that could fucking kill you.
Yeah, this
But
kid
it's fine.
should be dead.
He's not even knocked out somehow, which is even weirder because then he starts yelling for blubber. Then Amy climbs up onto the roof and puts a blanket over the chimney so that the smoke from the fire goes inside the cabin and basically like smokes everybody out, because she's thinking that Grizzly will surrender, but instead he just like sits outside the front door while the parents are getting smoke inhalation poisoning. Great. And again, they're tied up. Their mouth, they've got gags in their mouths. They can't only breathe but so much. And she just is kind of just like, oh well, I guess. Um, it ends up working out because in the smoke, Hank sneaks in and unties the parents. The mom's able to knock Grizzly out with something, and they all escape in a car. Amy's still like up on the roof, and they're like, "Come on, come down here." And I was like, What else was your plan, girl?" Like, she didn't know Hank was gonna go in there. She just is kind of like, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
For some reason, Blubber has like been flung into a lake and comes up to the house, fake frozen. I don't know. There's like throughout the movie, there's like all of these quote unquote like visual gags with him that are not funny whatsoever. Um, This is when the dad calls his cop friend again and is like, "Hey, can you go into my house and get my passports and my family's passports and meet us at this intersection?" And the cop's like, "Yeah, no probs." And so like the whole thing is that they're gonna try and return Hank to where he came from. They have this like heart to heart with Amy about how like, oh, he might be missing his mom and dad and stuff, and you know it's not safe for him here because he's gonna be hunted his entire life, and also like it's too hot here. And Amy's like, okay, fine, I guess.
I'm gonna go live in the Himalayas with him.
Yeah. Uh.
What's happening? What's
Okay.
your note say?
Sorry, I was trying to figure out what I meant by this sentence. So basically, like, the dad had stopped at a convenience store to get gas and make that phone call, and the clerk at the convenience store overheard this entire conversation that the dad had with the cop about their plan to get the passports and return Hank. And Grizzly shows up and he's like, "Hey, did you see like a family come by here?" And the clerk immediately spills his guts. He's like, "Yeah, I saw them, and they're trying to get their passports and they're trying to fly back to the Himalayas." Like, just immediate. You cannot trust anybody in this fucking movie. And at this point, Wesley is basically just like, "You fucking suck at being a hunter," which he does. And he's like, "You, where's my fucking Yeti?" Like, whatever. And Grizzly gets pissed off and ends up throwing him out of the car and into a snowbank where I assume he stays and dies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fun. At the airport, they're essentially like they get there, they buy their tickets, they're standing in line for like what little TSA there is, and they're essentially just like, "Well, how are we supposed to get Hank through?" And they're like, "Oh, just pretend like he's a stuffed animal." So they do. They're putting him on the X-ray machine, and as it's showing us the freaky ass like X-ray of Hank in like the machine or whatever, Blubber runs into the airport with his shotgun and is waving the shotgun around. But like the police pull, and so basically this distraction stops the guard from like seeing that Hank is like an animal, and the family is like, oh my god, and just like grabs Hank and runs. And the police pull their guns on Blubber, but like they don't shoot him really or seem that concerned that he is waving a shotgun. And like again, I understand this is the 90s, but Grizzly is extremely pissed off about this, because he's basically just like ruined their chances of everything that's happening.
Yep.
So it's basically just like zooms in on him being like, oh, but then he starts yelling at the police too. And again, the police could not be more bothered. They're just like running, just another day at the airport, I guess. And that's kind of like where it leaves off on them. Um, the family, it just like cuts to the family being back at the mountain, and the dad's like, I don't really remember like where I pitched my tent. Gross. This is a kids movie maybe. And he gives, oh, and then like they're basically like saying goodbye. Hank gives the dad a pine cone and he says, just what I always wanted. Great.
Yep.
um Hank and Amy hug,
His dad
and
is so over this entire thing.
I mean, wouldn't you be too? Like, he just fucking left the Himalayas. Like, he's, didn't want to have to deal with any of this shit because his kid's dumb. And so Hank and Amy hug and have their, like, heartfelt goodbye or whatever, and he just, like, leaves. And she's like, he didn't even wave! And the mom's like, he's not a human. He's an animal, so chill. And so Amy, like, turns back and over the ridge sees Hank there with another Yeti and is like, oh, look! And when the parents look, they're all gone. Then it cuts to Greece. It says Greece on the bottom, but it's like actually really obviously not Greece. But the rich parents are there being like happy, drinking their Mai Tais and whatnot. And the dad is just like, what do you think ever became of Wesley? And then they just like laugh or whatever. And then it cuts back to Hank standing on the ridge waving and weirdly over like the credits
Yeah.
and the end theme music.
And then you get to listen to the Carpenters for 3 minutes.
Yeah, literally. That's the movie.
Baffling.
Yeah.
Every time I stumble across one of these like late 80s or early 90s kids movies like this, I'm just fucking like, again, like a gnome named Norm, which I get, specifically I don't think was necessarily marketed as a kids movie, but might as well have been. Like, it's just fucking baffled that these things exist, and especially like, because like Mac and Me is one that I think I've known about my entire life solely because it's like got the reputation it does.
Yeah.
But it's like stumbling across something like this where I'd never heard of it before, where I'm like, how the fuck is Meatloaf in this? And then like I really expected it to be like a wild and zany like goofy kids movie, and it's just fucking dark throughout. Like,
yeah,
just fucking illegal shit. Kids constantly like almost getting fucking murdered.
I like looking at the director's other movies, and it's not like he really has a reputation for kids movies. So maybe he just was like actually aiming to make something that looked like a kids movie, but like kind of actually wasn't. And I think it's weird that like the bio and everything is like making this seem like it is a chase around the Big Apple, like Home Alone style, when they spend like maybe 10 minutes of the movie in New York and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's so baffling to me. I don't know. I need to know more about this puppet situation.
Oh yeah, I meant to look up to see if I could figure out who like was in charge of like the creature designs, but I just didn't because I don't care that much. Yeah, this movie insane. I would say don't watch it because it's kind of not great. Just watch like the first maybe 15 minutes. Once you see the Yeti get to their house, you can cut out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, literally just Google the Yeti and that's all you need to know.
They never put him in a backwards hat to make him like just pretend he's like a child. Like, what
he doesn't wear sunglasses. He doesn't ride a motorcycle. Like, no.
He does lay down on a skateboard, I guess.
He does lay exactly straight down like a skateboard.
They should have
I'm gonna
found
find that part in the
they
movie and send you the screen
they
for it.
should have had a scene where like he's rollerblading, but because his feet are so big, they just like tape skateboards to his feet.
Actually, yes, that would have been such a move.
Um, yeah, it's bad. What else did you watch
Yeah,
this week?
I can't. I can't recommend. Okay, let's see, because it actually has been quite a while since I recorded. Let's see, X-Men Apocalypse. I watched I watched a movie that was called Stop Motion. That was like obviously about a woman who was doing stop motion, which I knew nothing about, and it was actually like kind of good. It was extremely weird and like if you like body horror, it was like very strange, but I feel like I do recommend it.
Hmm.
It is a little bit slow. I watched a movie called Side Effects
Oh, like
from
Oh no,
2013.
I'm thinking of something else then.
Well, it had Channing Tatum, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Jude Law, and Rooney Mara in it, and it was actually like a little interesting. Like the overall premise of it, there's like some twists and turnies, but the overall premise of it is like a woman whose husband is in prison and he gets released and she starts having to take medicine because of her anxiety surrounding it, and then the medicine has like weird effects on her. I don't know. It's not really like my normal movie, but it was kind of interesting. And then Chris had seen it. I somehow had not. I finally watched Fargo for the first
Oh
time.
yeah, what'd you think?
I loved it. I thought it
Yeah,
was
it's oh
great.
that was there's a movie called Effects that I was like I could picture like the poster, but I couldn't picture like what it was.
Oh
That's
yeah,
like an AGFA release, which I was like, wait, what?
yeah,
No,
no.
Fargo's super
Um,
good.
Obviously William H Macy, or not William H. Steve Buscemi is to me like the star
Yeah.
there, but it was. I knew what the premise was. I just like for some reason had never watched it, and then I've really been wanting to watch the TV series. So I was like, we need to watch that first. So yeah, I loved it. It was really funny to me because one of the main guys, like the not Steve Buscemi, but his partner, he was like also in Prison Break, so that was funny to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. I loved it. I had a friend over who made me watch Encanto because I had not seen it. Not my favorite. It was okay. I did stop. Unfortunately, I stopped watching The Strain. I got like halfway through season two, and I was like, you know what? I just don't care about this, so I stopped. And then I've obviously been watching what is that show? Gordon Ramsay's
Oh, 24 hours
24
to hell and
hours of
back.
yeah, I've been watching that because I finished the reboot of Kitchen Nightmares, which was just like those two seasons, and then it auto played this one. And at first I was like, I don't really know about this, but I actually kind of like it because it's like I don't know. I like switching up the
I
like
can,
procedure
can
of
you
it.
imagine you just worked an 8 hour shift and then Gordon Ramsay shows up and it's like you can't go to bed for 24 more hours when we
And not only
reopen and then fucking you work
yeah,
another shift. I would be like, fuck you.
I was gonna
I quit.
say yeah, not only that, you then because like I feel like you could let the I feel like you could let the staff of the restaurant go home and take a nap or shower in something while your team is redoing the inside, and then the people who are cooking, like the cooks, come back to learn the menu. Like I don't feel like they need to be there that whole
I
time.
know what helps me learn is being awake for 20 hours.
Like 20 plus hours, yeah. But so far I'm liking it.
I
Except as we already talked about, the menus that he comes up with them for them are like mostly do not make sense, but it's
the
fine.
best part of that show is his disguises because they're all
Uh,
insane.
100%.
I remember like watching the
He
first episode of that when it aired and being like, "What the fuck is happening?"
yeah, he loves it so much because like in the second season is when he goes and starts like quote unquote unveiling himself to the staff. And I just can't imagine because like okay, if you're not familiar with 24 Hours to Hell or whatever the fuck. He essentially explains in the beginning that when restaurants know that he's showing up, they start to like hide things. And in my opinion, I'm like, you're not hiding things very well considering what he finds. So like their premises, and I also feel like, is this not illegal? They show up and are like, we are going to um you're gonna audition for like a renovation show. And so they do the same like interviews and stuff, but while that's happening, the rest of the staff hides cameras so then they can review the footage and be like, this is all the gross stuff that's happening. I'm like, can you do that? Can you record people? Like, I guess that maybe you can if it's like a public place. I don't know. Anyways, and then he why did I start telling that story?
Oh, we were talking about the disguises.
Oh. So then, like, he reviews all the footage, right? So then he goes into the restaurant in a disguise. So sometimes, usually, it's just like they put facial hair on him, but he'll like dress like a biker dude. He'll dress well, in one of them he dresses like an old woman named Jean, which that one was pretty funny. But like so then he would like go, and then once they order the food is served, and then he's like, "Oh, gross, disgusting," you know how he does. And then he usually would go change in the bathroom and then come out and be like, "Hello, Gordon Ramsay's here, gather around," which I can imagine is shocking. But then in the second season, he basically just stands up and he's like, "Hello, everybody, this place sucks," and like before he unveils himself. And like if you look at him, like you can obviously tell, oh, that's Gordon Ramsay with like a goatee glued onto his face. But could you imagine like being at a restaurant and some guy just stands up and is just like, everyone stop eating and drop your forks? I'd be like, oh my god, is this a heist? Like what's going on
Yeah, I'm
here?
like, oh god, we're
It
getting
is
robbed.
literally, it is so funny. But so I've been enjoying that. And then obviously I watched something for a bonus episode. And I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I don't think I watched a single movie outside of the two I had to watch for IAB stuff for this week. I've just been reading Alien novelizations. I've gotten through. I did Covenant, Alien, Aliens, and Alien 3 this week. I'm getting ready to start Resurrection. And
Amazing.
so far they're all pretty good. Aliens, they fucked up the "get away from her, you bitch" line and just put "get away from her, you." So like, fuck that
Yeah.
book. Alien 3 has been surprisingly pretty good. Like, it's like just the movie, but with like slightly like there's like an entire preamble that you find out like what happens on the ship that makes them crash and what kills like Newt and Hudson.
That's the kind of shit that I'm wanting to
And it's
know.
like it's not
Because that
I
bothers
mean like
me.
it's basically what they say in the movie where it's like, they crash and like Newt drowns in the cryo tube and I think Hudson is like impaled by something or whatever. But like they explain in the book that like a face hugger is on the ship and is like trying to pry open one of the cryo tubes, which causes like a fire or some shit that like expels their things out for safety reasons, and then like they just land on that prison planet. But like overall it's pretty good. Like I think like they do a pretty good job just like with the way they explain shit in the book for Alien 3. Um
Yeah.
Aliens I was super into, it said, until I got towards the end and I was like, boo. And
Yeah, that's
uh
weird.
Alien is good solely because it's like based on the original script as opposed to the movie. So it's like different. It's just a lot slower. Like it's almost 300 of the 400 something pages before the fucking chestburster scene happens. So like you get
Yeah.
so much fucking like slow science shit of like them going into this alien ship to explore it and blah blah blah, all that shit. So but I mean overall they were pretty good. Covenant I thought was really good. Like again, it's just the movie, but like I don't know, I think the way it was written was pretty well done. But I'm excited to see what
Yeah.
Resurrection is like. And then there's a Prometheus novelization that I've yet to find for free, but I want to read that. But then I'm gonna start diving into the like non movie tie-in stuff that I'm excited to get to.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Prometheus
Yeah,
anywhere.
I just happened to see it on like a list, and I was like, oh, interesting. But I'll find it if I have to. I'll fucking buy like a used copy for $3 on some website. But I've just
Yeah,
been using Libby for everything else. But for some reason, Prometheus is like the only novelization one they don't have.
yeah.
Um.
Boo.
All right, what do you want to shout out this week?
My shout out this week is I'm gonna watch Batman tonight, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, Val Kilmer died last night.
Yeah.
Go watch MacGruber instead. No one's talking about him
No.
being a MacGruber.
I also personally haven't seen anybody post about Batman. It's all
Oh no,
been
I've seen a lot of stuff, at least in my feed, about people being like, no, actually he was the best of those first four movies, which I disagree with,
hmm.
but I also liked him as Batman.
I was gonna say I don't know if I agree, but I also liked him. I think he's been in just like so many crazy. I've also haven't seen anyone also mention The Saint, which is a really fucking crazy movie where he like maybe that's where Gordon Ramsay got his inspiration because he does really crazy disguises in that movie also. It's very loopy. Um and then yeah, so I'm gonna watch that tonight.
Uh, shout out this band called The Cure. Pretty good.
Oh, never heard of it.
Just like as I've been reading, I've just been listening to like The Cure, like on a loop while I'm like reading and stuff, and they're pretty good. I don't know if people have heard of them. They're pretty good. You should check them out.
If I didn't say Batman
Yeah,
Forever, by the
Batman
way.
Forever.
Not my favorite Batman movie, but
No,
that is what I
he
will be
got
watching.
fucked with probably I think the worst villain set in those Batman
Yeah.
movies.
I mean, we've talked about our feelings on Two-Face and Riddler in this, so
I
but
think
I
Jim
mean,
Carrey's relatively fine. Like
yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones is I don't know what the fuck he's doing as Two Face in that. We should do that as a bonus episode at some point.
Absolutely. Did we did we do did we just do like the 89 one?
No, we did returns for Danny DeVito episode.
Okay,
I
okay.
don't think we ever did 89 Batman.
Okay. I remembered that we only specifically did one of the Batman movies, like of the older ones, and I just couldn't remember what it was. But you're right, it was. And it wasn't even like in depth
Yeah, it
because
was
that
like
was
the
back when we
three.
were doing three
I mean,
movies
I
for
would
some
be
reason.
down to
Like,
do an episode at some point of all four of those.
yes, let's do it. I
Um,
love
all right, next week, Bigfoot versus DB Cooper. Kid will be back.
Finally.
That movie's gonna be terrible. I'm not looking forward to it.
No,
it's
yeah.
got
I haven't even looked
it's
at it at
it's
all.
got a bunch of Amityville people in it.
Vibes. Oh, great. I love it.
Oh, I mean, it's directed by David DeCatau. I can't remember. I never remember how to pronounce his name. DeCatau, who like does a bunch of Full Moon stuff. But I think, oh no, maybe no. This one actually this might be good. I was thinking of a different movie. There's another one I added to like my watch list as like a Bigfoot versus something that had like Sean Phillips in it, or was like a Polonia Brothers directed one or some shit. This has Eric Roberts in it, so maybe it'll be good.
Hmm.
It's currently got a very good ratings thing of like a huge half star one and then a bunch of very tiny rest of the ratings, so that's promising.
Great.
um
You know what? It'll be
yeah.
fine.
All right. If you'd like to support us, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/happysufferpodcast. Katie and I are about to record an episode on Labyrinth that will be out
Hell yeah.
either right before or right after this episode comes out. We push the Simpsons one for April, so all three of us could talk about the Simpsons.
Yes.
Uh, Ready to talk about David Bowie and
I'm snapping you the Yeti on the
oh,
skateboard scene because it is worse than I remember actually.
um, yeah. You can check out all of our bonus episodes on the Patreon. Labyrinth coming up next. Uh, I've started releasing the Rob Zombie episodes into the main feed. So by the time this is out, the House of a Thousand Corpses one with Shane and the Devil's Rejects with John will be out, and then following this episode will be Halloween with Jeremy on it. That one, I got some hot takes about
Oh,
how much I
wow.
don't like Jamie Lee Curtis in it.
Wow.
So get ready for that.
Great.
Uh, you can leave us a rating and review on whatever fucking bullshit you listen to this on. Except you don't leave us comments on YouTube.
Please don't. I don't, yeah, no.
Um, unless you are only putting it in like a language I can't read because you're just there for run and kill, which seems to be what most of the
Great.
comments are.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fine.
you can follow
Welcome.
us on Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. You can follow Kit at Hidden Kitstery and Kitrification of Blood. You can follow Katie at Werewolfface and join Katie's Patreon at patreon.com/werewolfface. You can listen to my other podcast, AK Movie Club. Special shout out. Go check out Steve Kostansky's new Patreon.
Heck yeah.
Uh, all right, yeah, DB Cooper, Bigfoot, something next week. Movie better feature Bigfoot jumping out of an airplane with a sack full of money, or I'm gonna be very upset.
Yeah, I'm really, I don't know. I don't know what to expect, to be
Yeah,
honest with you.
I generally have like zero idea what that movie's gonna be about. It's like such a like baffling title and like premise that I'm very curious to see what it is, and I think it's only like 80 minutes. So,
Perfect.
all right. I hope you are rich and can just throw money at Meatloaf. But why?